Hello and welcome to the second episode of Let's Talk Tactics. I'm your host, Zach Burrell.
Hey, I'm Daniel Boone.
Hey, and I'm Luck.
And this week we have our first guest. Welcome, Zande. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Yourself?
Not too bad. So before we start off with the topic for this week, which is a day in the life, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your Final Fantasy history, how you got into War of the Visions, like that kind of background sort of thing.
I've played most Final Fantasies. Some of the biggest ones were Tactics. I spent over 100 hours on that game and fell in love with the series. Um, During COVID, ended up getting put out of work and playing Final Fantasy 14. They were doing the collaboration event, and that's when I saw War of the Visions
okay.
and
Nice.
got into it. Wasted resources on Thancred that
I was
couldn't
gonna say, did
kill.
you go for Thancred?
Oh, man. We're here with you.
But fell in love with the PvP and how deep you can build your teams, your characters.
Now, I know are you completely free to play or you're kind of close to free to play?
I've spent less than $100 and I've played for 170 days.
Okay. So, PvP, how has that experience for you? How's that been? Live PvP.
Typically I lose,
Okay.
but it feels good whenever you can draw the battle out a little bit, knowing you're at a disadvantage.
Sure. Have you ever now I know free to play players can't usually afford to put their rainbow fragments into lower units, but have you done like Zazan charms to anybody yet and like really tilted the whales?
No,
No.
the biggest resource dump I did was a Phobie. I didn't have a healer and was trying to clear the tower.
Okay. Hey, she's not really a dump though. She's pretty good. I used her on like 5 floors of the tower. She's great. Got my monks Chakra giving her TP back. But
I think she was my second TMR that I ever got. Was Phoebe.
I think me too. Actually, I had Mont first because most of us
Yeah,
did.
exactly.
Really. And
Mont,
then right into
Phoebe.
Phoebe. Yeah. Okay, sweet. So, like I said, this topic is a day in the life. So, talking about how we balance our raids like this week, or our character farms for Alcris or whatever, or we have, say, shard farms to do every day, which I'm sure we all do. The hard quest. I hope that's at least one of your daily habits. We have the coral sword, plat mace, Drake's horn, spear, all those things stacked together. It's a lot. So I kind of want to see how different perspectives balance that, because Daniel and I are spenders. I'm more the higher end. So we buy out like the weekly energy packs, the daily energy packs, and we try to maximize those gains. Whereas other players, I know Locke, you are a spender, but not on energy, which is interesting. And then Zonda, you're like you said, you're on the lower end of like basically no spending. So I think this would be an interesting to kind of hear everybody's perspectives and how like our day-to-day War of the Visions life sort of differs. I'll start with myself briefly. I'll use this week as an example. I always feel a week behind because I'm trying to farm everything, which I think is actually kind of a pitfall you fall into when you buy the energy pots. Like you feel like you can do everything, and then you get done with one thing and realize you've got like 10 pots left and it's only Thursday. And you're like, uh-oh. So now you gotta start doing multis, which I have a tough time doing because I do have a full-time job. I was working 9-hour days for a while. And it was really like, it was a later shift, so I would get home at like 7, and then I try to like scramble to do other stuff. I'd have tournament matches, and it's hard for me to do multis sometimes, and reasonably sleep more than 3 hours. So yeah, it's a weird like little self-fulfilling difficulty there with spending and then feeling you need to do everything, spreading yourself thin. But at the same time, that's like a first world problem because there's other people who don't have all those pots. So it's a definitely an interesting topic. Daniel, do you feel kind of the same way with how your lifestyle goes?
Yeah, I think my like weekly like energy spending kind of depends on I guess each week like how invested am I in the event, you know. Definitely didn't farm enough of the Drake's Horn last time. Who
I
knew
think a
that
lot
like
of people
Wolf
regretted
Fangs
that. Wolf Fangs for that ice brand,
exactly.
man.
Yeah, right. But as far as kind of like my daily grinds, like the way I can't believe I'm about to say this. Like the way I structure it is I do the daily stages that are always offered, like the XP cubes, the growth pots, etc. Those are like my first things I go to, and then
I basically
like
wake up.
um well, when as soon as I can get to the game, after going through my daily habits and stuff. But like I try to prioritize those, get those out of the way so I don't forget them, right? Um,
Pop that first
and
whimsy
then
shop.
yeah, oh yeah, sometimes. But like I also show this on my streams. Like I try to start my playing for the day, for lack of a better phrase, I guess, with like getting all of my daily missions, like
Yep.
like the bar up to 100, right? Like it's like making your bed at the beginning of the day. Like it's like that sense of productivity kind
Right.
of like gets me to keep doing like productive things. So and then it just, so after I get the daily stuff out of the way, that's when I try to, take care of the rest of the far plane stuff,
Right.
hard quest, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the first thing when I wake up, it's like free pulls. Right now, it's do the little MR plus pull, do my hard quests, and then I can kind of like, all right, set this slow gil farm while I take a shower. It's like my morning. Locke, what about you?
So I have an interesting story that I just was not able to buy any of those pots because the game just wouldn't let me buy the pots for some reason.
Silly
And
game.
I tried, contacting support to say why can I not get the pots, and they were not very helpful with that at all. So I
What?
I went for I think 2 months without being able to get it, and somehow the problem got resolved. I think with one of the newer updates from the game. And suddenly I was like, wow, I can have access to all these pots and do like unimaginable things. Right. But then, for me, it's just a mindset. I don't want to always have the best things when I start. You can kind of look at the way I play live matches. I never start live matches with a unit at 99. I always start at 79 or 89, and then I slowly kind of build that person up
Yeah,
and
I think
see
you
how
touched on it at the end of last podcast, right? You were saying that was like your
exactly.
ending word advice to everybody is like start with the low levels.
Exactly, yeah. And it's just a
Valid.
personal like frame of mind for me. I mean, I think if I played a game where all the best things were given to me and then I could do something with it, I would just get bored fast. That's just me, right? It's not other people want the best things that's available at the time. Uh, for me, it just that's just not it. So what I do when I farm, um, I mostly do multis, but not like all day. It's just maybe
Mhm.
for like a few hours while I'm doing something else.
Sure.
And I slowly build up a stash of resources. So for the mace farming, I had like everything except for the recipes because I had all those items from like different from different multis that I did over the months, right? So
Right.
that was really easy. That was able to get it in like 2 days because I just needed 63 recipes and I was done.
Fair.
Um, and usually I try to prioritize weapons. So I would try to
Mhm.
get +5 weapons because there isn't as many weapons to get as there is
Interesting. Okay.
armors. Because armors, there are like different versions and variants and stuff, and it's just like too much, right? So armors, I'm usually okay with like +2 of one kind of armor,
Mhm.
and I just use it as best as I can. And maybe slowly I will farm up to a +5, but it'll probably take a long time. Weapons, try to go with the +5 because I like playing more offensive than defense.
Right.
So with my vision cards, I always focus on the offense. So
You
that's
mad,
and
man. I
then
can't imagine. I'd be on
So
edge
good.
the whole time. I'd be like, oh, I'd be so nervous. But all right, Zani, what about you? So walk us through your average day. You wake up, how you start the game, if you start right away or not, and take us on
Uh,
that journey.
as soon as I can, I go through the free summons and stuff like you mentioned, and skip through my hard quests, and then I'll start doing a slow gil farm or whatever while I'm doing something like making my lunch for work,
Oh, mad for my own heart.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then it's 40-minute drive. By the time I get to work, my energy's full. Start another slow farm, ignore it for another couple hours, do it again. Then when I get home, if there's a piece of equipment like the Coral Sword where I've got a 99 Sid, well, I need that.
Yeah.
Farming multis in the background on my computer for the rest of the evening.
Hmm.
because
Smart man.
can't afford to host.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of what I'm getting into here. Like, how many? And again, you can refuse to answer any of these you want. I don't know if it's personal or whatever, but how many hours a day would you say you dedicate to joining multis and kind of actually grinding, like working really hard for it?
It depends on how interested in the item I am. Like right now
Coral
with the
Sword.
Coral Sword and my Sid, I'm spending 2-3 hours a day farming it on multi. You know, it's every minute and a half, 2 minutes, readying up again, going through the loading screens.
Now, how impactful is it when they give us, say, the 10 large pots for a bingo board or things like that? Like, are those massive boons to your account, or are you just kind of used to doing the multis to where you don't need that energy as much and you can kind of stockpile for later?
I hoard all of those for instances like the Coral Sword, where as the time starts winding down, I go, oh, I still need more lightning crysts. I'll set up an auto farm, go to bed, and that's what I've saved energy pots for.
Got you. Okay. Yeah, because I've always been curious because they're I really don't mean to sound like first world problems, but I ran out of energy on like a Saturday, and I had no pots, and I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm still doing my normal stuff. I don't have time to like do multis right now. I'm like, and I was just watching my energy. Like every 10 minutes, I was like, do I have more energy yet? Oh, only 2 or 4, or whatever it is. I'm like, oh. So
last week I got like to like 50 large pots, and I was like, whoa.
Oh, I go to 0 every week. Like I can't save pots to save my life. There were like 2 weeks in the last like 2 months where I didn't like farm myself to the bones. But yeah, it's interesting. So that almost makes it like you're far more efficient than we are, though.
Yes, definitely.
Like you get to do these multis that you double drops all the time, and
I think I'm sitting on 300 small, 100 medium, 100 large pots. My Coral Sword will be finished tomorrow. And then I'll be dumping pots to get the mace, hoping I get the calculator.
There you go. I mean, you'll get it later, right?
Eventually.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, it's so interesting to me. So then, what about how many espers would you say you're resonant with on an average unit that you've used?
Oh, that's a good question.
Maxed resonance? Probably, like my Sid probably has resonance with like 7 different espers. All 7 I could imagine using. A 2-headed dragon, behemoth, Odin, etc.
Now, do you when a new esper comes out, say like maybe when Odin was released, what was your process for kind of like hardcore getting resonance, or did you not really worry about it because it took a while to actually build Odin up?
I didn't really worry about farming resonance right away. I just pulled them, threw them on, I think it was Sid at the time, and built it up as I could.
Just naturally? Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because like that's actually another reason I don't do multis as much, is because I want to get the resonance and affinity across all of my units because of PvP. So it's interesting that it's always interesting to hear when that's necessarily not a priority. Do you guys experience that too, Locke, Daniel? In that order? Sorry.
Yeah, you switched this up this time, so it took me a second. Anyway, resonance is a big part of it, and I think I spend a lot of energy on resonance, more than I do on like farming for equipment and stuff. But I mean, as the game keeps going on, I don't spend as much time on resonance anymore. Like when it started, I would spend almost all my energy on resonance, and I have resonance with like a lot of like low tier units. For example, Severo Murmur. I remember when you talked about it, I had a lot of these low tier units built up, but I don't anymore because I can't afford the energy to get resonance for like newer units, right?
Right.
So that is a limiting factor, and I think especially for PvP, if you are looking at like lower tier units, you just don't have the energy to train the resonance up for them, which is limiting. Yeah.
Yeah, because we talk about this all the time in the PvP servers, where it's like you think of these lower rarity units as more accessible and they're easier and all this stuff, but really they're just not, because of limited resources like fragments and stuff. So it's you don't actually see anybody except like the whales having maxed out Mishes like I do. Like nobody has time to level Mish, but I'm like, oh, I got Mish Resonant with like 6 Espers. He's affinity with everybody. Like it's just it's so interesting. I love this. So Daniel, what about you?
It's funny, I was just imagining like each of us like trying to build resonance, and like for me, like obviously I'm like almost entirely like PvP focused, right? So like any of my grinding teams, they almost always include like an MR or an SR on there. Like you can't neglect the units that you plan on using, and if you plan on using all of your roster, it takes a long time. And you know, there's the new like unit pack or whatever that lets you build resonance twice as fast. That's that definitely goes a long way for like $8 or whatever.
Yeah, it does.
But
and the JP.
You know, obviously not everybody has access to that, right?
Right.
But it's interesting because you have to take that into account depending on like what stages you're doing. Like if you're trying to do like these like some of these far plane stages that require like if they're brutal difficulty or whatever, you have to you may have to make sure like if you set that on auto to like build your resonance, that like your units aren't dying and then you're losing out on bravery, and you know, which is, you know, the bravery and faith build or build up is another like problem in itself, right?
That's not
like,
even that's not free to play friendly either. Like
no,
you have to
there's
specifically
not.
spend time doing like some bullshit story mission that's like really easy to clear to get your faith up. Like do you like Xande, looks like you're about to say something.
You do it in your dailies.
You do in your dailies?
You bring Fina with you or something, and you have her slap it on whoever. You spend 5 turns passing on everyone else. Do that, then press auto and walk away.
There you go. Locke, similar for you?
Yeah, it's I usually get it done while I'm doing something else. The faith and the bravery. Yeah, I mean I get it up to 70 in barracks before
Right.
you know, before I do anything else, and then the last 30 I use Rob to get the bravery up quickly. And thankfully faith I only need for like half
how you
my
plugged
units.
Rob, you're just like, make sure it's Rob.
It is. It's always Rob. I don't know.
It's always Rob. Somebody quote this man.
Yeah, for my mages, for the faith, it's only half my units, so it's not as bad. I think all the units that I need, even like the MRs and SRs, I have at 97 faith for all the mages. I mean, it's just been a long time that I do like resonance farming and everything else, and I get it done.
Everyone's at least 50 now, though, right? For bells?
Yes. No.
No. Yeah, I have a couple that like I was using Mariluke in the raid for fun. Daniel and I and 2 other people did strike damage rooms where it was 2 Marilukes, a Lucia, and a Ziza. It was fun as hell, just doing pummel chains. But I realized the very first raid we did, I'm like, revitalize, move up. I'm like, wait, where's my AP? I had 30 faith still, so it failed.
He whiffed so hard, it was glorious.
Because I imperiled, and then I went to my next turn, I was like, whoops. And we almost failed it by like, we were like 2 turns, we cut it close. Anyway, sorry, just an aside, but
yeah. I kept some units strategically at 30 just because there's so much status effects going on, and I just want to be able to have a chance to not get like silenced and disabled and whatever.
Yeah, so most of mine units, are at 97 for full lives. I don't know if you know about me and my history of full lives, but
nobody knows.
Even 97 is not good enough. Well, by the way, just a funny thing here. So, Xande, are you familiar with the PvP scene at all?
Yeah, some.
So, the last 2 tournaments I was in the finals, and I missed a full life each time from Freyevia both times on the 97%. Not even talk about other stuff that happened. Today, it gets worse. In my side event match, in the MR or less match, I missed a 99% confuse. And then the turn after, I missed a 95% jamming thrust. And then I hit a 67% attack, a 31% stop, and a 48% disable. But you know,
something's going on with your luck, man.
Anyway, so that's the joke. I'm a joke. No, but Anyway, sorry. Yeah, so most of my guys are 97 faith, so I'm actually getting pretty nailed by these status effects these days from Delita and Agris and Wall and stuff. I basically just play that game as like who's gonna coin flip first, and like I hope it's me. So that's interesting. Now, here's a question I have. We'll start with Zande. How many units do you have at 15, 15, 15 jobs?
0.
Now, is that for like disinterest, or is it just you don't want to spend the resources on that to? Because I mean, you can multi-grind it, so that's kind of.
I got my first maxed UR right around the time Wall got released.
Oh, okay. Who was it?
Fred.
Nice.
Frederica. And then I proceeded to max Wall and then Sid. So
Okay.
it's just been lack of desire to spend the time farming that on top of a Coral Sword or Ras Agethi or whatever.
Right.
There's only so much time you could spend farming.
And then Locke, what about you?
I have 2 units, and that's like as of this week. And before this week, I had 0.
I know you're talking about it this week. That's why I wanted to bring it up. It reminded me.
Yeah, and the reason for that is the yeah. I mean,
you want to play with a
tried...
99 unit before they're maxed out to make sure that you know how they work, and then you're gonna max them out.
Well, part of that too, and I mean, I tried doing it on multis for a while. I just didn't want to spend like additional hours just doing that.
Right.
And again, trying to do it on solo would just take way too much
like a
energy.
slog. Yeah, it's.
Yeah. So the only reason I got these units up now is because I have a few maxed out units now, and I'm getting all these shards, which is making it quite easy to get those. Whatever it's called, those
the
5
pink job memories.
Those pink job memories. So that's why I'm able to get them. I think I'll have like maybe 3 or 4 by the end of this week. That'll be like 15, 15, 15.
That's also why I was asking. So because I've maxed a lot of units over time, I just passively, when I pull my Medina and Miranda dupes, because apparently that's all I can pull after maxing them, it's ridiculous. I have a lot of those UR medals, so I've been just dumping those. Especially, too, I maxed Rams and Sid the first time around in Tactics, so that Chocobo Expedition was farming me UR medals, like, every day. So, like, I just buy the pink memories there, so it feels easier, but I hate farming the faint memories, like the actual like pink orbs themselves. It feels like forever. Like those are the only thing that bottleneck me now. And then Zande, you were saying you just maxed your units recently. Do you think you're going to go for them soon, especially because you're gonna have a pimped out Orlando with a +5 Coral Sword?
As soon as the Coral Sword and the Platinum Mace are done, that's the plan, is to switch to farming that. Host it if I have to.
When you get your guys 15, we'll have to do a PvP match.
Yeah, good luck with that farm.
Yeah, that sounds sick. So, okay. Let's transition a little. Is there anything else you guys think would be useful to add to that sort of topic before we wrap it up?
I was going to say that I didn't really notice getting my units to all 15 levels for each job until I started pulling more dupes. Like as your roster develops and as you have more level 99 units, whether they're UR or whatever, you're pulling more dupes, you have more opportunity to buy their job memories in the Soul Metal shop. So like you, when you were asking like how many units do you have like all maxed out, I had to go check because I was like, oh, when did I start like consistently getting units to level like 15 for every job? And like I have somewhere between 12 and 24, like all maxed out at like 15 everything. And I think it was around the time that Lucia came out.
Oh, that's actually earlier than me.
Yeah, Lucia, I think that's the earliest I remember, like making sure to max out the character, because just having that extra edge, like it's like, even if it's like a slight advantage, it's still
usually 2 agility.
Yeah, it's like it's more noticeable in PvP than in PvE, obviously. And so like every
15th level of their main job is huge.
Yeah, exactly. So anybody thinking of whether they're on the fence between like 12 or 15, like at least get your main job to 15 if you can.
Yep. Like even my Murmur, main job. The rest of them,
Yeah.
Not yet.
And I think maybe we're used to thinking just in terms of UR units, but yeah, I definitely have MRs and SRs that are maxed out because they're already at a disadvantage if they're facing against other URs. So like pretty much any edge you can get is important.
Right.
I think it gives a percent increase actually on that 15th level, so that it does add to it. I just couldn't be like bothered, but it does provide some stats, and it is a percent
Yeah.
increase as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
there's. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say in closing to that subject, like just make sure to do maybe like an hour or something of like the red farm on Saturdays. You know, just
Join
build it
rooms.
up
Join
slowly.
rooms.
Yeah.
Don't spend
Um,
your 18 energy a run.
yeah, you're
I've hosted for my guild before because I have a couple guildies, real MVPs that host it like every weekend. That's just what
Yeah.
they like to farm for some reason.
yeah. So just keep an
And,
eye out.
yeah.
Half an hour. You won't
And
regret
they're
it.
nearly free to play too. Like I don't even think they buy weekly pots, and they just love doing Saturday pink farms. I'm like, you're a madman. Like, I'm willing to host, but if you're gonna be like, hey guys, red room open, join in, I'm like, all right. And that was post split too, so the splitting is a whole another topic. But yeah, let's collectively facepalm. No, okay. So the next topic then we got a lot of requests to actually talk about PvP more and like the meta and everything, and talk about kind of the plat mace being a really high priority for units like Ildira. Leads me into talking about Ildira. So I'm gonna start with Locke.
My new favorite unit.
I'm gonna
So-
say that you, out of the four of us, I assume the four of us, I have her, but I haven't used her a lot in PvP. Zande, you said you don't have her yet, right?
Yeah, 30k down, nothing.
Yep. Ooh, I'm sorry. That was me with Kilfea. And then Daniel, you also don't have her yet.
That's correct. I
So
have,
Locke, you are our resident professional. Let us know kind of how. I guess we're gonna hit 3 points: the how she is as a unit, and just like some interesting things about her, what makes her unique, her impact on the meta, and then the third part actually has nothing to do with her. So we'll wait for that.
So, how she is as a unit, she's great. The reason she's great is because she can do two roles at once, and both roles very effectively. First of all, her damage is very good. She has access to two different types of damage, light damage and water damage, and she has huge AoEs. The holy skill that she has actually does quite a lot of damage. It says M damage, but if it fulfills a height condition, I'm pretty sure it gets bumped up to the L type of damage. So it's
Mhm.
I can one shot a lot of tanks that are weak to magic with it. Like I
Yeah,
think I
today-
can.
Oh, sorry.
Go on.
I was gonna say today in guild battles, actually, I put her in for the first time because Miranda was doing some dumb shit, and she actually chose to do holy over any of her water moves for one of the turns, which is normally they prioritize the highest damage so they can aim properly and whatever.
Mhm.
And the map has water attack up, and she had Shiva and Trousseau. Like, she's got the damage, and she chose to do holy, which I found very interesting. I was expecting her to do a water or water gun on the back line, but she didn't.
Mhm.
So I definitely hear you on that holy.
Yeah, she does amazing damage basically. I mean, and also I'm sure everyone has heard about it, but she is like a terrific farmer. She's better than Mediana, which was the previous terrific farmer. So she took over that role. So I mean, her damage capability is up there. There's no question about it. But then the second part that's so good about her is the supporting capabilities. And the reason I got used to finding about that is because I started using her at level 69. At level 69, I'm not expecting her to do crazy damage, so I'm only using her for her supporting, right? So the first skill that is amazing on her is her LB. It gives 60 CT to everyone in the AoE 1 square. And so I don't know if this is a bug or if this is intentional, but even if you don't target her, she gets 60 CT as well.
Whoa,
So-
hold on. Wait. So I heard the bug where there's a graphical error where if you target her, it doesn't say she gets it, but she gets it. But you're
Yeah.
saying if she does it across, say she had infinite range, she did it across the map, she still gets the CT?
Yep. Right? So
What?
So if you don't move and you use her LB, she gets 80 CT. So she can move twice in a turn. Right? So
That's gigantic. I feel
Pair
like
that
I
with
don't
her
want that to
TMR in live
exist.
PvP.
But
In live PvP, yeah, and also
Yeah,
in
pair
like
that with
in
her
Guild War
TMR.
too.
That's 3 turns.
Yeah, her TMR. Yeah, we'll get to her
we'll
TMR
talk.
later.
We'll
Yes.
get there. We'll get there. Yeah.
But her LB is
it's a
amazingly
very
powerful.
touchy subject.
But her LB is very powerful. For example, even in Guild War, if I put her next to Warrior of Light, she will use the LB and he will get 2 turns and put himself way beyond the rest of the team that no one else will get caught in the AoEs. You pair him with the Frederica. Frederica's can be, she can barrage from 10 squares away, so she won't get hit by any AoEs, but she will kill your opponents, right?
Right.
So
Which is
you
excellent
you
on this
can,
map too, with all the water.
yeah, it's great. Yeah, this map is perfect for that. But yeah, she's good in a lot of places as support. And let's start. And we haven't even touched on her healing. Her healing is, in my opinion, on par with Ayaka, because it does a lot of healing, instant healing. It's like Ayaka's LB, but you can cast it many times. It doesn't heal as much, but it heals a lot.
Can I just say, I think it's on par because she has magic up, whereas Ayaka doesn't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, she just has
Yeah,
pure
okay,
base stats, or not base stats, but her stats themselves rather than multipliers. Yeah.
Mhm.
Not base
so
stats, but
So that's so her healing capability is there. Her LB is great. Her damage is there. The one thing we haven't talked about is her CT manipulation, which is also crazy. She has that CT average skill.
Wait, real quick, Zombie, have you seen his video?
I have not yet.
Okay, we'll have to send it to you after the podcast. I'm sure he'll talk about it right now, but
so I basically what I did, I paired her with two thieves who have the steal time ability. So both of these thieves are built to have very, very high agility, the maximum agility I can find with VCs and whatever. Turn 1, I would go and steal time the opponents. Turn 2, I would use her LB so that they can go again. Turn 3, I would use CT average, which averages everyone within an AoE 2 range. And because my 2 steal timers are faster than the 3 opponents, I basically get 3 turns in a row before the opponent has gone once. So I can decimate a team and they don't get to move.
In the video, his opponent doesn't get a turn.
Yeah, and they're dead.
Not a single turn. Not a single turn. It was disgusting. People on Reddit were like, "Oh man, you should get banned for this." But anyway, yeah. Oh.
And there's one thing actually I haven't touched on. Another great feature of her AoE disable. So disable as the disable formula for her doesn't follow the typical disable formula, because typically with the higher your faith, the more chance you have to cast disable. But in this case, she has a 15% chance, up to 30% chance, depending on her faith and the opponent's faith, and based on if her height condition is met, she gets an additional 20%. So how that works out to is you have between 39% and 49% chance, if the height condition is met, to disable everyone in AoE 2 range, which is, again, could be game changing, right?
Coin flip.
It is a coin flip. And the times I find those coin flips
too, so it's like it's really, you have a quote unquote guaranteed success and fail, and that middle one's the coin flip. It's like, is the game over or is it almost over? Because disable is so crippling, right? Because
it is, yeah.
Confuse makes you walk around and hit people. Like, at least once they're broken, they can use abilities. Stop. Okay, that was pretty brutal too. Even take turns, but you get disabled. It's not like silence where you can use physical attacks. It's you just can't even basic attack. It is insane, because I think if you're confused and you basic attack, you at least get AP, right?
You have 2 choices. You either stand still to get your turns done faster, or that's if you can take the damage that's incoming, or you run away and you get
then you're losing on the CT game. Yeah, it's brutal.
You get kited down.
And one thing about the disable now that I found out is that it's great for evade teams, because first of all, when she's casting the evade spell, it doesn't consider the opponent's evade chance, right? So
it's like most statuses, yeah.
Yeah. So if you actually successfully land disable, the chance to hit them goes up to 100%.
It's like or sleep, and yep.
So that is she has so much utility on top of her amazing damage. So that's why she became my favorite character. I think she'll work well in a lot of comps. I think she will start seeing a lot of use as more people start building her up and get resonance up and so on and so on. But she is, I think it is a bit complicated to figure her out. She has like so many passives, which one is the best one for which map
Right.
and things like that. It's like it takes a little while to get used to. And her LB is like one chance, right? Whereas Quicken, you have three chances. So even if you mess up a little
Mhm.
bit, you can go back and redo it. Her LB, it's one and done. So
It's
uh,
perfect
it's
for people like us. You know, it gives us so much to dive into. You know.
Yeah. Sink
Yeah.
our teeth into. No. So do you have any experience with or against her, like in your guild or anything, Sunday? Or like, what's your kind of? I know you said you want her, so like, what draws you to her also?
Just the ability to solo stuff on multi. I
Oh,
wasn't
fair.
even considering putting her in my PvP team, but the limited energy, being able to solo stuff and not pay attention on auto and multi was really tempting.
Do you have Medina?
I do at level 60.
Oh, okay. So did you got her when like everybody got it for free? I take it.
And no, she was one of the first URs I pulled. I just went at went after Sid when I heard
I was gonna
about
say
the
I think
collaboration.
you may be one of the only people I've ever heard that pulled her early and just didn't use her after all the hype.
Yeah, I went for Sid.
There you go. You went for the other hype.
Yeah,
Although you played Tactics though, so I'm sure you have at least some fond memories of Sid. I hear he was good in that game. I've never played it.
yeah, he's probably the best character in the game.
overpowered, just like this one.
Oh, listen, man. There's no reason Crush or a sword-based attack should outrange my black mages, but whatever. It's one of my favorite complaints. But I'll use them. Okay, so that's interesting. So, one more thing before we move on to the next topic is going to be Ildira's TMR, which we almost skipped over. It is a transposition and a quicken all in one, sort of. There's a lot of debates going around about its viability because it can only target your opponents. So when I initially read it, I thought you could target anybody and you could play around with it, but you can't. So, and it has a charge time. It's not instant or anything. I think it is potentially very useful in very niche situations, granted, but that it could be very impactful on units like Miranda, which I also learned it's a cloth armor that only can be equipped by like actual mage classes. You can't put it on a ninja, so you can't put it on Katone. You can't put it on, say, Rain wears clothes. He can't wear it. So that was disappointing. But I guess we'll start with Daniel. What's your, say, maybe pre-impression, now initial impression, and then like future kind of outlook on the TMR as it pertains to live PvP? And maybe a potential use for it.
I think, not having pulled in the unit, I've obviously tried to do some research into, obviously knowing my enemy, like knowing myself, kind of thing. I didn't realize that cast time was so slow.
It's a flare, yeah.
Yeah. So
At max, it's a flare.
So units that have a higher cast time or that can afford to equip gear or vision cards, whatever that increases their cast time, I think are going to have an easier time using it as a support. I think I would like to pick Gumi's brain on like the decision they made for who can equip it. Like, why is it mages only? Is it like, did they do a lot of internal testing or something, and like that's the decision they came up with? Like, I haven't really ran into many Ildiras in live PvP. Haven't had the misfortune of having it used against me, but I'm actually really looking forward to it because I'm a strong believer in making mistakes and learning from them. So I don't really have much firsthand experience getting screwed over by the TMR, but I'm looking forward to it.
Zande, I know you seemed excited earlier about it. Go kind of walk us through your thoughts on it and maybe things you can imagine happening with it.
It was a lot more exciting before I learned that you couldn't equip it on like a Venera or a Sid, because if you could use that and then drop like Heavenly Blade, well, you just won. But to be able to use it on like a Miranda, and where so many people are running a 97 Faith, and you follow it up with the LB, well, now they're all confused and half dead. It
Well, two of them, the
can
two that
change
didn't
the
get
game.
swapped out.
Well, yeah, the
Yeah.
last person gets swapped out, hopefully near the rest of your team, if that's your
Mhm.
plan.
Yeah. Okay,
Love-
that's very similar to what I'm imagining now. Now that I know the
Yeah.
restrictions, is it's going to be an interesting tool for Miranda to use to maybe, because I mean I build Miranda pretty tanky anyway, so maybe you build her a little slower, put some golem on her or something, like make her really beefy against whatever type you think you're going to be experiencing, and then yeah, kind of walk up. Maybe even with another time mage, honestly, like with Ildira you
Yeah.
can do stuff, like with the CT manipulation.
Love me
Then
some.
you want to be faster, but.
Love me
and
some
then-
transposition plays.
Yeah, so you like target them, run back, swap, LB the two here, and then like you said, separate the other unit and get in there. But Locke, what about you? What's your kind of feeling about it?
I mean, yeah, I also think it's quite niche. I think the best case that I can think of is when you are two spaces away and you walk away to get so that when you transposition, you can separate the group.
Mhm.
But the problem with that is that you have to start two spaces away from the enemy unit, right? And
Right.
that's up to the enemy to do. And so the case, when, how often will that happen is probably quite limited because most mages can't take a hit. And the ones that can, I mean, it also becomes like, it's not that, like, this is not my only choice. I can also put a different TMR on Miranda or whatever, right? And
Mhm.
several of the TMRs have quite useful abilities. So I don't know if I could make the sacrifice of saying, well, I can use this as a niche situation, but I have to give up this other awesome ability for it, right? And is that worth it? I don't know. So far, I would think no, but I mean, maybe we'll find a use for it as we
Yeah.
keep playing around
So
with it.
so it's more for highlight reels than it is for realistic, all encompassing scenarios.
Yeah, I don't. I
All
don't know.
encompassing
I
meaning
just,
like randomly going in, like not a tournament setting where we
Right.
tend to be able to predict matchups a little
Mhm.
more. Like when you actually just go into a random PvP match and find a
Yeah,
random opponent.
I don't see cases like that where I can use it. Maybe things like, I'm doing some crazy build with like CT manipulation, so I'm putting it on, say, Kilfei and running Kilfei up and then using like CT average or something crazy like that. So it can work in like a very specific situation where I haven't figured it out yet, but I mean, maybe there's something like that.
Yeah.
there.
I would say it adds an interesting dynamic to the use of Quicken. Generally, you want to use Quicken on units that are going to be affecting the enemy team, be it like damage or like a status effect. But with the advent of her TMR only being able to use with mages, you have to make the choice of, are you going to quicken your attacker, or are you going to quicken your support so that they can get into that two range and then get back out, um, so there's, I guess, that it's an interesting dynamic to me to think of.
The other side of that, in my opinion, is that like if you're doing all that, like for example, you have your support going once and then you also quicken and get out, and then once that by that time you could probably also like just do two jamming thrusts and take out the enemy, right?
Right.
So you're doing all of this, which might, like, it might do something to the game, but at the same time you might
Send
also
a
use all the
message.
energy just to
Let them know you could have killed them, but you're doing this to them instead.
Well, yeah, it's for like cases that like maybe damage isn't like the solution,
Yeah. Yeah, like I can imagine doing it. There's sometimes where opponents like say rain, or if someone brings a wall, like at some point I just ignore the unit. I avoid, yeah, with the wall. I avoid the unit. I try to kill their other, and then I just lap them later and try to team up on them 2v1, 3v1, however fortunate I am at the end game. I could imagine doing it to a unit like that you're significantly faster than, and punish them. Just be like, all right, I'm gonna put you over here, and like we're gonna deal over here. I could have done damage to one of your guys, but I want to just take you out for a while, then do my damage because I feel like it's gonna give me maybe a better chance I'm not getting stopped while I'm trying to kill your guys or something like that. So it kind of goes along with what we're saying with it being a niche and everything, but I think that's maybe a slightly different situation, more realistic. I used transposition recently. I was practicing for the MR matches, and I was using Helena, and my opponent went berserk. I don't remember how it happened, but his unit went berserk. I think it was the reaction. He was
Viking,
using.
yeah.
Who's he using? It wasn't Seymour, because Seymour can't go berserk. Fun fact: he gets the buff without going berserk. It's great.
Pretty sure it was Tyrell.
I think it was Tyrell. Yeah. So he went berserk. I'm like, oh, he can't control him. I'm like, transposition, run back here, swapped him 9 spaces away, or 8 spaces, whatever it was, and then I just 2v1'd his other unit while his Tyrell was just walking back. It just like completely crippled his strategy. It was great.
It's like Monty Python, just like Lancelot just running.
Yes, so I can imagine doing that kind of stuff with the TMR. Obviously, yeah, if you have a second Quickener on the team with Miranda, you can do cuter stuff with Dax. You can swap it. But again, you could also just Jamming Fist twice. I'm hoping... Are there any units you guys can think of in the future that fulfill the caster role that could end up using it as like a tank? Like, say Freyavia's thing was swapped, right? Like, if she was a White Mage first, Spellblade second, she's a tanky-ass White Mage. She could maybe do something with it. But, who'd you say?
I'm still learning about Chell, but I figure she's fast enough.
And she has Thief for extra movement, so she can drag people further. I guess that's actually an interesting thing. I was planning on wrapping this up just now, but we're all talking about Time Mages. They already have Transposition and can go way further with it. Start from 4 spaces. Granted, they don't get quickened when they swap in, though. That's going to be the decision you make. Interesting. I'm so convinced that there's a use for it, but there's that part of my brain that's more realistic, like, it's probably not the best. It's just really fun and interesting.
People use Transposition all the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, I mean the TMR, like, over other
No,
tools.
People don't use Transposition all the time. I think it's a really underrated skill.
Yeah. I guess we'll start with another thing. We'll bounce back to Ildira specifically. You asked a question the other day. I believe it was if we had to pick and tier units out into like top tier or S tier, A tier, whatever, what would we put in the top 3? Was that your question?
Yeah, I would say like my question is, all the units available. What are the top 3 units what would you consider are the top 3 in the game in global right now?
In what context?
For live PvP.
For live PvP. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? No other qualifiers. Just that's the question. Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
So before we answer, Xande, I'm curious. So you have played some, but you're not like super deep into it. And you said you kind of get your ass kicked sometimes. What, from your perspective, what would you say, kind of looking into the scene, you would be those top 3 units? And why?
Assuming you had unlimited resources.
Assuming they're level 99, 15's out, you have things you want. Maybe not max VCs.
Agrius.
It's really hard, but
Agrius, Ildira, and probably Rain would be the 3 I would go with. They all have capabilities to do damage, sustain, status effects. If you could have all the right TMRs like Ziza's Bells, you could have a really good 1 game.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. Daniel, I think you answered or sort of answered the question at one point. Actually, we'll go with Black first. You asked the question. Do you have the 3 you would say?
So the way I thought about it is, I mean, for PvP you can bring 3 units, right? No matter how many units you have in your roster, you're limited to 3. So if you can bring a unit that can cover more than 1 base very well, then I think that is a top unit. So Gilgamesh, for example, he is, fantastic DPS. He's also fantastic support because he has Quicken, he has Haste, which is, the abilities you want in a support unit. He doesn't have heal, but beefy. And exactly, he's tanky. He has, I mean, he's also very expensive to build, but he's worth the resources that you put into him. I mean, so that's the kind of way I was thinking about it. And when I'm thinking about it that way, the 3 units that I thought of were Gilgamesh, Kilfei, and Ildira. Kilfei, because I find that, again, she does so many things. She has access to Holy, which is good against, the dodge teams. She has healing. She has raise. She has fantastic damage capabilities. She's tanky. So she can do a lot of things, right? That's why
Imperil.
She has Imperil as well. She has with their LB.
For magic damage, or for magic attack damage. But.
So that's why I would think that that's the way I was thinking about the question. It was not I was like, how would I think about it? How if I was going to make a tier list right now, what would be the top 3 units? That's what I was thinking about it. I'm like, well, it's subjective. I mean, I'm sure everyone will say something different. And on top of that, like any unit you pick, they have a weakness, right? So I was like, is anyone really better than another? I mean, yes and no. So how can I
Now,
think about it?
would you say those three together would make the best team of three?
No,
Then
I don't think so because I mean I think those three are a good team. I think there could be much better teams. But I think those three are the top units, but it doesn't mean that the best team is those three together.
right, which I thought was going to be the case. So that's a really interesting distinction to make. I think.
Mhm.
Daniel, what would you say?
Yeah, so kind of like how Locke was explaining, like towards the ends, like um, you were saying like you thought you remembered my answer. So before I get into that, I just have to kind of provide the context of like not being a fan of tier lists,
Oh,
because
for
like
sure. Me neither.
because
I hate them. But
as Locke mentioned, you know, like you can't avoid but be subjective and placing them into different tiers, right? Because as I'm sure most of us are aware, it's all about like you know the rock paper scissors elements
Mhm.
of the game, where depending on the situation, like one unit is going to be in like in a disadvantaged situation as opposed to another. So um, I my answer was that I didn't really have one. It
that
was
I remember.
it
Yeah,
depends on
that's
the
yeah.
context, you know.
Mhm.
You're
I
on the
can't
spot.
say
Pick three.
um
Just for
yeah just
conversation's sake.
yeah. So like I can relate to the idea of having um, a unit that's viable in different situations. So for you know not just like damage and support and healing, but also maybe even especially like status effects. For instance, like Katone is very powerful with her stop effects until we get like the ribbon or whatever, which again situational, right? So Katone's ability to stop, Victoria's ability to charm, Ziza before her. Um, when you run into these situations where like maybe you don't have the accuracy you need to hit a dodge team or unit, you rely on these faith attacks as I try to coin it. I'm still waiting for that to take off, but
Faith attacks.
I call them faith attacks because
Status
like it's
effects.
yeah, status effects. So um, that's part. It's not just about like whether you can do damage or you can support well. It's about being able to respond to these different situations um, in a way that can provide you an advantage. You know, let's not even get into like transposition and quicken and stuff like that. Um, I think you could probably generate a pretty decent like live PvP tier list just based off of teams that people bring to tournaments. You know, like where you're like the money's on the line, um, like you're in it to win it, whatever. I'm sorry, I'm doing a lot of air quotes today. Or are they vampire fangs?
Or T-Rex arms.
T-Rex. So obviously, yeah, I agree. Kilfei is an amazingly viable unit. Rain also awesome. These new tactics units like Agrius, Delita, even Stadio, like using
Jesus, we're up to
MR.
5 already.
Yeah, it's I can't. It's really hard for me to pin down three, so I'm gonna have to abstain, I guess.
Oh, but you have to pick 3. No, so I'll let it pass. I'm in a similar situation where I agree. I completely agree with you that identifying 3 isn't necessarily useful, except as more of a thought exercise to, maybe focus yourself on what's relevant, like figure out something you might not have thought of before, or aspects like something. As you were talking, right, you said it depends on the situation. There's a sort of like 4D chess game you could be playing where it's like, well, if this unit's good, right, and everyone considers, say, Ildir, I think we all could probably all agree is towards the top.
Yeah,
It's
she's
like,
amazing.
does that make Frederica now one of the better units because she's a solid counter to Ildira because she's a lot faster, and if she can get a hit off, which I know Locke, you're working on her not dying to a sharpshoot, but like if she can one shot her, it's like now you can't do the Ildira things. So I wonder how that sort of interaction, where everything kind of settles. So like there's this unit's up here. Well, this unit then gets brought up, which brings this one down, which then brings this one up, and like where does that equilibrium happen? Uh, that aside, not getting too deep in all that, if I had to just pick three, I agree Gilgamesh would be on there, just simply because of his versatility. Like you said, he's got the quicken and haste sort of stuff. He even has self haste, so he has additional hastes. He doesn't have to cast on, himself, like regular haste.
He's got the range.
Gets the range. He has a massive AoE with a debuff. He has a relatively beefy body. He's going to be over 4,000 health normally with respectable resistances and stuff. Then he also has a teleport attack, which can be useful for positioning and really throwing off your opponent's game that way, which also does large damage for some reason. He's just, solid all around. LB not so good, but comparatively. Then this is where it gets a little tough, because I think pre-Ildira, I may have said Rain at the top. Not that she counters Rain, but I think she pushes him out of my top three. Because I think Ildira is there mainly because of Locke's video. It's ridiculous. Like, a lot of powerful units. So let's see, Venera, Victora, Ziza, Kitone is not a thief. Shadowlings is not a thief. What other thieves are there that I'm missing?
You said Victoria, right?
Yeah, Victora. Yep, Victora.
Yerma.
Ziza.
Yerma is a thief.
Yerma could be a thief. There's a lot of relevant units, yes, I called Yerma relevant, that could do this job alongside Ildira that you already will be playing anyway. Like, for my account personally, Victor is one of my top units. I don't think she's in the top three, but I would use her in a lot of situations. If I just put Ildira on my team now I have that gambit or that thing in my pocket where I can just be like, oh, I'm just gonna do the steal time CT, go up because I have 102 agility, and I'm gonna take the next turn too. What's up? So I agree that she's probably up there just because of her pure flexibility, utility. She, like you said, she does a lot of jobs. The third one, though, I think you said... Wait, who'd you say was the third lock?
Kilfei.
Kilfei, yeah.
Kilfei, right. So, I love Kilfei. Since day one, Celera and Kilfei were my two targets. I wanted them... No amount of money was going to stop me from getting them, that sort of thing. I didn't get Kilfei. I did 24 pulls for her, I think. And just didn't get her. Have a lot of shards, though. This morning, on an MR Plus ticket, I pulled her. So I haven't used her yet.
This man and his MR pulls.
Ildira, day one, and then Kilfei now, yeah.
And yeah, I have the same story. I got both of them from the MR tickets.
Really?
Sunday, how about you?
But anyway, so I haven't actually used Kilfei yet. She's so interesting, and I agree she's really flexible, but I haven't experienced it yet, so maybe there's a gap I'm missing. And I may also be very biased because I play a lot of Rain, who stuffs her face in most of the time. And he's not a direct counter, but he is kind of my go-to anti-Kilfei. Unless they are on Spellblade sub and well geared, she's gonna get 2-hit. I haven't really seen one that survives more than 2 hits. Then again, I build my Rain really offensive. But Rain would be close just because, again, his flexibility and the fact that he can be so beefy and so innately tanky for no reason, and then also deal 5,000 damage to an Engelbert.
Yep.
Okay. And then I think, though, I'm going to have to agree that Agrias is up there for me. Not even just because of her status effect, the fact that she can stop somebody. It's the fact that she can stop, silence, confuse, and disable people. A lot of units, something crazy. I've been learning in the past couple weeks, especially doing these PvP tournaments, is before games I'm checking everybody's resists. So I can kind of have a game plan of all right, I can North Swain's strike this guy, I can Judgment Blade this guy, don't LB this one or something. And I actually learned yesterday, I played against longtime Twitch, spoiler, my video is not going to be out yet when this comes out, but I did win. And my Mustadio had 100% disable chance on Shadowlings. We just learned that she has this 25% weakness, so just put it up to 100%. And we're both like, what? So
just a bit of a side note. I encourage anybody watching right now to get in the habit of checking the stat page for the units that you're fighting against. That's such a good habit to be in. Just the more often you do it, the faster you get doing it.
For sure, yeah, and like vision cards, same deal, right? Like you go in, like that's the kind of habit. You move one, move back, click menu, back, map, scroll up, click them, magnifying glass, look at their cards, go back, resist. Okay.
If you know what
if you're playing Victora, you check their faith.
if you know like what you're looking for, bravery, faith, resistances, it takes like a second or two.
It's nice on their turns if you can help it, but like if you, it depends on the game.
Sorry, I digress.
Oh no, you're good. But Agris has so many. Like Sid can't be disabled, but boy can he be stopped. And Silence doesn't really do much to him. But then you go to Victora is actually a tough one because I think she has resistance to both stop and disable. Is that
stop and immobilize? I don't know about disable. Actually, I don't know.
I'm gonna pull up the calc real quick. I'm getting it really bright while my Google screen lights up. I want to make sure I don't mess this up. This take 2 seconds. Victora is it's immobilize is the other one. I don't know why I ever tried to immobilize her, but I noticed one day. Like learning about these units, status effect resistance is huge, and Agris can hit basically any unit with at least one of them. And if you can silence a mage, they're done for 3 turns. You can disable anybody. They're done for 3 turns. If you stop people, they're done for a third of the remaining game. Like the fact that she has all of those tools and they're all coin flips, assuming because a lot of people have high faith still. If they have lower faith, it's not a coin flip anymore. But then you're winning for other reasons, because maybe their heals aren't as high, or they can't stats affect you as well, or their full lives miss or something. Like it's a really interesting balance to strike. I'm not saying I'm team 97 faith, but at the same time, I get punished for it sometimes too. But yeah, so she has access to all that stuff. She's ridiculous range, AoE. She's also just tanky to everything. My opponent today was very surprised with her tankiness against physical damage. Like she was taking under 1,000 from like a well-built Sid. Like it happens, especially on Paladin sub. Like she's an all-in-one package. She's less of the all-in-one package of having multiple jobs. She has a little bit of like regen, which helps people heal here and there, but she's not a healer. But she's a support in a different way, and she does damage because both of her like main weapon options are very solid, and she just has really beefed up stats for no reason. There's no reason she should have 90 agility without trying very hard. There's no reason she should have like 5,000 health. Like she's insane.
I would say the one thing that she struggles against is the thing that maybe they intentionally provided a way to mitigate is evade teams. And so I think having Lizalia's like that sword with that accuracy plus the slash attack and the ice attack is a nice complement to her kit.
So yeah, I think I would say my third unit is Agrius because of that. But I can see arguments for maybe like 5 other units like taking that third slot. I definitely think Gilgamesh is in there. And Ildira, maybe just because she's so new and like we haven't figured out like how to beat her yet, but at the same time, it doesn't matter if you can beat her. She has so many tools, like you might also just get beat, regardless of what your plan is. So yeah, that's my 3. But again, I will repeat.
You don't have to.
It's not totally true, or it's tier list or shit. I think there's a quote from one of my TCG, like one of the best players in one of my TCGs. He said, "A tier list is just someone's shitty opinions, and here's my shitty opinions," or something like that. But,
I can appreciate the perspective on that.
Yeah, it's very unnecessary. But any other thoughts on just that in general? Like anything you guys would add after hearing everybody's opinions on that? Xande?
No.
Okay. What?
So what you said about Ildira, about Kilfey is the same as I feel about Agrius because I don't have Agrius. I mean, I've been fighting her, and so the funny thing is, I mean, because of her status effects, when I go to the PvP tournaments, actually, that's like in the back of my head. I'm like, okay, if I get disabled, what do I do? Like, so I have to actually plan for that, and
it's a lot to plan for too.
Yeah, but I mean, after this tournament, I will go into what I have done to kind of mitigate that. And but yeah, I play against her. I don't play her, so that's probably why I don't see her usefulness as much as Killface, for example. So I've been playing with Killface for like 2 days, and but I also I've been playing with Salaray for a while, and I think Salaray is like an MR version of
Salaray.
Salaray. Is it?
She's not a
Salaray.
vegetable.
Solier. Oh my god. Solier. I was
That's a
like,
nice flair though, celery.
Very picky up.
I have trouble pronouncing names
No,
sometimes.
you're good. You're good. my
Salaray.
empty
No,
cap.
Solier. Jeez.
No, it's fine.
So Solier is. I mean, she has kind of access to a lot of the stuff. She has holy.
sure.
She has raise. She has great damage. She's not as tanky. That's the only thing. But I can appreciate how good she was because I was thinking of bringing her to like live PvP teams before. So when I saw Killface, I'm like, yeah, this is it.
It's the real deal.
Oh, she can take a hit now. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
So
not like
I mean,
Leona's Castle Solier just trying to do her best.
so I think Agris. I mean, when you explained it, I think she can be a great unit, and I mean, especially if I have to think about what do I do if I get all these status effects, and it's gonna be like a part of my plan. I think she's definitely like a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, like you never want to plan on like relying on a coin flip,
Mhm.
but every attack she has is a coin flip. Like you're
Exactly.
gonna hit something eventually. Like even I don't care what you think the mystical world is gonna deliver you in terms of luck. At some point, you're hitting one of those things, assuming you're going on a unit that's not like immune to it. And it's just they're also backbreaking. It's so insane. Even Delita, though, to be honest, like the only difference is Delita can't take as many hits as Agrius can. So although he is an immense attacker, I'm terrified of him. And his LB is obnoxious because I play a lot of mages. And he's just going to silence the whole team because of the 67% because LBs are stupid. But like he just can't take as many hits. Otherwise, he would potentially be in contention too because not so much now with Ildira, but like being weak to water wasn't always the biggest deal. Like you have to worry about Miranda, but then like your opponent has to be building some damage on Miranda to still like try to one hit you, and there's a whole mind game with all that. But yeah, coin flips, man. Sometimes you just gotta go for it and get rewarded. If there's one advice I can give for this, I say this all the time on my stream. It's like if you have no like guaranteed options, sometimes you just gotta go for it. Like you have to go, especially like evade teams. Before I got really solid with my Victora plays to get sneak attacks off, like I didn't have a lot of accuracy on most of my teams. Probably a fault of mine, but at the same time I just didn't have the good gear for it. So I was just like 49%, let's try it. 36, gotta do it at some point. Oh, I hit. All right, we're in a position now.
Right.
Can we hit that sleep? Like you just gotta go for it sometimes, and Agris rewards you for going for it every turn.
I think that kind of harks back to what Locke kind of started saying about just jumping into live PvP. Like it's another kind of support for that argument is like getting better at going for it, like making those executive decisions. Maybe that makes me a hypocrite saying so because I always like the timer's my like worst enemy. Like generally I would say like as you practice your game, like you're going to get better at following these strategies and like pathways and stuff. So I would encourage you guys like our viewers to work, like the more you PvP, the more you're going to get better at making these decisions faster.
Yeah, for sure. Like even just I recommend playing live PvP on a phone because it's less distance to click everything. It's just faster than a mouse usually. The connection is typically stronger. But yeah, even just the muscle memory of saving those maybe 3 extra seconds, right, than your opponent gets, because you just know the thumb order to like go check the vision cards real quick, get out of it, and like you kind of see like, oh, their Odin's at a 14. Okay, he didn't max out the card yet, so he's only got like 6 man-eater or whatever, and you can like make these little calculations from just playing it a lot. And those little things that you know can help you make decisions later for like, I don't want to be in position of a 10 man-eater Odin, but a 6-1 I can probably survive, stuff like that. So I'll end this topic off on Xande. What would you say would either have to be added to the game or your account would have to be positioned to do to get you like kind of diving even more into the PvP scene?
Working less.
Okay.
Tomorrow
That's fair.
makes my first day off in like 20 days.
Oh man,
Oh
it's
wow.
rough.
That's the biggest thing. Is just
Okay.
more
So
time.
it's a time sink. Okay.
Yeah,
Now, does the
I spend my time farming.
Does the introduction of the 2 times encourage you at all?
Yeah, the 2 times and
Because it makes turns a
even
little faster.
auto. If I don't have time to actually play through it, I can auto it and get towards those Hermes sandals or that platinum armor.
Right, right.
Mm.
Are you going for Hermes or platinum armor first?
The sandals, the agility is more impactful.
Good man.
Definitely agree with that.
Yeah. I would like a vital platinum armor someday. And actually, the passive on it is strike. So as of now, you can probably get away with just a +0 of whichever version you want, which is kind of nice.
I have one, and it's really hard to get to
Yeah.
987 or whatever, 78
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
at +0. So I would go for shield, honestly.
Yeah, probably. You don't need 300 more health unless you're like Whisper, but then again, plus versions. Anyway.
But yeah, sorry, Zandy.
Anyway, so it would just be more time in like your life in general.
Yeah,
Okay.
I not enough time to go around.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm definitely a nerd. Like my life is very centered around I plan stuff around this game. I do. It's kind of, I don't know if it's sad or if it's dedication. I don't know. It's some bastardized
It's
combination.
got somewhere
of those,
in between.
I have a quick question. I know we're kind of going maybe a little bit more time than usual, but
we still have one last little topic after this.
Yeah. So that kind of makes me wonder, like, do you guys ever have like a certain time of day that you would normally try to do live PvP? Like for me, like sometimes I like reading myself to sleep, and I found myself live PvPing myself to sleep. So I'm curious.
Oh, don't say that. Now everyone's gonna think it's boring. It engages your brain. I can't live PvP before bed. What you talking about?
Just ending your night off on like a high note, you know.
Yeah, I got you.
Do you guys like? Have you noticed like a certain time of the day that you would try to do it?
Whenever the mood strikes, honestly. Like if all my daily stuff's done, maybe I'll get to like 0 energy at some point after doing a long farm. And I'll be like, that was a good time. I'll get some natural energy back and go chill for a bit. Come back later. What about you, Locke?
Yeah, I have no set time. The only time I would not do it is when I'm really sleepy because I will make like lots of mistakes. And I have made a lot of mistakes and I'm like, yeah, I should have slept like 20 minutes ago. But yeah, I mean any time of the day, I don't really have a set time to do it. Yeah, just whatever strikes my fancy.
So, oh wait, sorry.
I was gonna say you. What about you? Do you have a
Oh
Sunday?
no, I just sorry, they're talking to me. My bad.
If I'm gonna have a set time to do it, it's probably gonna be after my day's pretty much over. I've cooked dinner, we've ate, I'm waiting to go to sleep at this point. That's when I'd have the time to do it.
Yeah, I think that was part of it.
All right, sweet. So I have a mystery topic. I haven't told anybody what it is. I just told them it's going to be kind of on the fly. I just want to hear your answers. They can be as short or as long as you want. I want at least some explanation, but you don't have to go like too deep. Again, we're going to start with the guest, Zande. What would you say in a PvP context, which I know, again, I don't know how many things you will know how to answer this with, but maybe a slept on sub job could be a specific unit who has a sub job that is kind of slept on that people you don't hear about people typically using, or just a sub job in general that you think is underused or has an ability that's underutilized. Any combination of those to formulate your answer.
Monk, there's basically no strike damage in the game and basically no strike resist. You can now, with the addition of the Platinum Helm, you can get to a 95% slash resistance Warrior of Light or 100% Whisper, but what are you getting your strike resistance to? 30?
Right. So, are there any particular abilities that make you say that, or is it just the strike damage in general?
Just the strike damage in general. I think you have abilities like I can't remember what it was called.
What does it do?
It's a lot like Nighthawk. It's that type of range, straight line.
Oh, Terra Slash
ability. That's it.
Terra Slash was fun on Ifrit. Just We got Lucia to hit a 9999 Terra Slash. But okay. That's okay. We'll go to Daniel next.
I would say Green Mage, hands down for me.
Okay.
I think Green Mage generally you see on like mage like main jobs, and the ability to affect the battlefield with not just the debuffs, but the agility up. And some green mages get, oh, well, I think all of them actually get their specific elements, like bar
Yeah.
arrow, bar lights, etc. Those like people don't really think of those in terms, or at least maybe for the past months or whatever, in terms of like defensive buffs. You can really stack elemental buffs with things like protect and like everything else that you um, like you would normally expect to build defenses around.
Other forms of mitigation.
Yeah, exactly. Words are
yeah. I feel like a lot of people, it's vitalize and dispel, and then like beyond that, they're like, what does my sub job do, or what does my main job do?
Yeah. So I think, that one stands out to me.
Okay. Any particular units that you think should maybe explore using Green Mage sub more? Besides Grace? It's fine if no. I just curiosity.
I think so. Obviously, you guys know, and maybe our viewers maybe don't really know as much, but yeah, Grace is definitely one of those units that really stands out as a green mage. She doesn't have dispel, but she has everything else that makes that job worthwhile. But she has bar light Ra, which is like the AOE to like burst. So she's been kind of pivotal in terms of like my trying to go like an anti-holy build, but obviously units like Agrias, with the cleric sub job that gets light veil or dark veil and such. I'm trying to think of any units that stand out that could use green mage more often, because obviously I think maybe those of us with like more URs, like obviously Ayaka, we've had difficulty with on auto because of using prioritizing bar arrow instead of these other buffs that are way more useful.
Do you want me to go through the green mages, the units with sub green?
No, I think okay. I think I'm all right. But yeah, I think I guess it just depends if people have access to these units,
Right.
But I would say just or objectively in terms of like whether or not it's being slept on, I think green mage definitely places.
Okay. And Locke?
So I think personally, I think not even just a sub job, I think an ability. I think steal time is being underused for in live PvP, because I mean there you can do a lot with it, right? And I don't think I've ever seen anyone else use it before. Now that spells are mages are there are several mages in the game. Steal time will enable you to get an ability off. When I was using Victoria before with jump and her agility wasn't as good, I would run up Venera to use steal time on an enemy so that jump would land. I would steal time my own units to change the CT order to get like someone to be quickened before. I was able to do like steal time my own Victoria and then quicken her to get like 2 turns at once on turn 1. So I could do all these like different combos with steal time, and I don't think I haven't seen other people utilize steal time as much. At least not in a lot of my masters anyway. And even like the thief sub job, I wasn't really interested in it until I got Venera, and then I'm like, well, I have her, I might as well see what's in there. Because before, whenever I thought of thieves, I thought of charm, and it just wasn't appealing to me to use. So I was like, I kind of put it on the back burner. When I thought of Venera, I'm like, yeah, probably gonna run her as like a dual gunner, because I was all about gunners at the time, right? But then I'm like, oh, the thief's job is actually kind of interesting, and then the steal time was like even more interesting. So I mean, if you see my videos and my tactics, a lot of it is about like CT manipulation. That's why I like Ildera so much, right? So steal time is definitely like, I think is underused ability, and I think it has a lot of potential to do great. It also gives you a benefit of just giving you more agility. I think up to 30% more if you for the person that uses steal time. So it's just all around, it's pretty great.
All right. Have you ever run into the problem though, where like, say a unit's taking a turn, like in 1 or 2 turns, you steal time and it just doesn't change the order because of the CT? Like, do you find it hard to manage that? Like, to kind of analyze when it's actually going to matter, or versus when it's not going to actually change the order?
I usually
Unless it's a
check
trade
with-
secret.
No, I usually just click on map. I check on the units that I want to go before it to make sure that it would work. Sometimes I do miss, but it's more often than not that I don't. Because from the CT you can kind of see, like, if they have like 46 CT, and then I know, okay, if I steal time we'll have 23, whereas my unit has 33, so I know it'll go before your unit.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So
Yeah, I actually used it
that's kinda
today in my main event match. There was a Rain and a other unit, not important, within one space of each other. And I knew if I gave him a turn, he's gonna be able to move that Rain away, and I couldn't AoE to like kind of clear out and like put double status effects down with Agrius. So actually, Victora ran at Rain, which is normally a no-no. I was keeping her away the whole game. I'm like, you know what? Getting the steal time, put my Agrius before the Rain, and then Agrius got to go up and hit multiple units with the status effects. Like, yeah, stuff like that is awesome. For me, I think my answer might actually change, because I was going to say Monk, but now that while you were talking, I was just kind of double checking myself here, and seeing that a lot of the sub jobs don't have the skill I was going to talk about, which is Chakra. So now I have to think on the fly here.
Oh no!
I do.
I do.
I think
Yeah, right?
Garion is the only sub monk that has chakra.
Does he have Chakra?
I think so. And
Uh,
no one uses Gafgarion anymore.
He does not. He has Purification. Is the weird? Is like the
Oh,
interesting
okay,
one he
that's what
has
it was.
Are
So
you talking
store
about-
is useful. Wait, sorry.
Are you talking about like a unit that doesn't have like a main job monk?
Right. So I was thinking of like Lucia on Monk, for example, like being a mix-up, or Frederica on Ninja were some thoughts that came into my brain when I was thinking about the subject, like catching people off guard. I was going to say Monk, but now it's just more of like store tricks with things like Elda, Gafgarion, Durando, like units. Not that anyone uses Durando, but units, or like Lucia. Even if you go store and then quad shot somebody, like that's probably gonna hurt. But I think that actually might not be my answer anymore. So I think I'm going to swap it, and we'll give away some tech here that everyone can watch some recent videos. Lancer. So Lancer has a couple cool tricks. Daniel and I made use of Grace in a recent tournament. We both made the finals, and then we had to do this to each other, and it was miserable.
I was kind of expecting Lancer to be yours, so I didn't want to pick that one.
Mana Strike. So in PvP, managing your TP and AP is pretty important. There's a reason Ziza's bells are so damn good. And Mana Strike does not take a lot of investment to just drain someone's entire AP bar. I think I drained a Rain once for 212 AP, which is more than his bar. Like, you just put some Pierce Mastery on her, and it just drains it.
I've seen
But-
like 300 to 500. It's
Have
insane.
you really? Yeah. So then other moves like Osmos and Osmos Force are pretty cool too, and like Black Mage and Soldier subs to take out TP from healers. You take AP from DPS, that sort of thing. But also another one is Burst Slash. So Burst Slash moves a unit one space back when it gets hit. So there were actually a couple times where I had Rain charging Firaga on one unit, and another unit was one space off. While he was charging it, I moved Grace up, knocked them into it, and then they both got hit by the AoE. So like, there's a lot of cool, intricate things you can do with a Lancer subjob, and the units that have the subjob are like Eileen already wants pierce damage, so like she can at least. Well, is she main Lancer? Yeah, she's main Lancer, right? She's not a Dragoon.
She's not a dragon.
Okay,
She's
so
a Lancer. Yep.
Eileen irrelevant then. Elda also Lancer. Rob Horn can do it. Ziza, I believe, has some of these tricks too. Grace, Tyrell, actually, I'm building him for sub Lancer first before Knight or Viking because of it. But I think sub Lancer's sweet, and people should try it out more.
Not to mention the fact that you can build them for crit a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because of their sharp spear. So even getting off.
And attack. It's a 38% attack buff. So
Yeah. So like combined with whatever main job they have, if it's not Lancer, it's just a really cool aspect to it.
Yeah, like looking at, I guess maybe Rob Horn might be the main one, but like if you go in Sharp Spear into like a Kongu. Does he have Kongu in his main job off the samurai?
Yeah, Sam.
Yep, he does. So Kongoing people hurts already. If you have a 38% attack buff and he's 38% crit on someone who's almost always critting anyway, whoo,
Not to mention
that Kongu's gonna hurt.
vacuum slash that's like built in to the Lancer subjob.
Yeah, so I think that's a really cool subjob that people should try out. And I guess playing off that, try more AP and TP attrition abilities in general, and just like mix it up. Like I know Venera has what's it called? Is it AP Steel?
Seize AP.
Seize AP.
Yep.
That one I know is pretty potent too. Been hit by that. Wasn't happy. But anybody have any closing remarks or anything you want to add from the topics that you might have thought of while we were progressing along?
I do have something that I was thinking about during Locke's discussion about CT and Elder and stuff. For anybody watching that is working on their PvP game, which I'm guessing or hoping that maybe you are if you're watching, for maybe if you haven't really considered it as much, you don't always have to move and attack for each turn, and that's part of the whole like
move and use an action.
Yes, sorry, action, because you don't always have to attack to take an action, but maybe that's not really something that's as paid attention to by like everyone. But like the whole CT management isn't just about skills that affect CT, but it's also about the decisions you make, whether to move or act or both. So maybe that's one way to create openings, is to maybe moving and then passing your turn, especially for higher agility units. So try to keep that in mind.
To build on what you said, actually, same with affinity. Sometimes it might be better to keep your units closer so that they get more agility bonuses from your other units, which translates into higher CT per turn, which lets you take more turns faster.
Then you get hit by a level 3 water gun and cry.
Well, you have to, yeah. So that's the bad thing.
It's hard staying out of range of that.
About affinity,
No.
is that you're susceptible to taking AoE damage. So you have to, you have to kind of manage that risk, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Xande, how did you enjoy your experience on the podcast tonight?
I'm up a little later than normal, but it was enjoyable.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'll admit, everybody,
Oh,
we started recording at one point, and then I realized I wasn't recording. We went through about 10 minutes of it, so the beginning of this you saw was actually a repeat. I apologize again, but I hope you enjoyed yourself, and thank you for joining us, especially, like you said, staying up later than normal. I really appreciate it, helping us kind of grow as a channel, and also being our first guest. It's great.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
But yeah, so we have been Let's Talk Tactics. I am Zach Burrell.
I'm Dan Aboon.
And I'm Locke.
And we will see you next time.